And when I was 16, I was raised in a Catholic home and went to Catholic school, went to the Catholic church every Sunday and every Friday up until I was in the 7th grade. And I thought I knew everything there was to know about God. I thought I was going to heaven. I thought I was a good person. But to be honest, I had no clue who Jesus was. I did not have a relationship with him at all whatsoever. And it took me until I was about 16 to finally realize that I was doing something wrong. Like, I was living for myself. I wasn't living for God. And I thought I was. And when I was 16, I got caught stealing. I did a lot of stuff that people didn't even know. I was always drinking probably every weekend, always partying, stole constantly. But I was really secretive. I kept a lot of that to myself. Like, I told, like, some of my closest friends didn't know anything about me because I kept it to myself. And that just showed me that I was ashamed. I really was. But I didn't really care. And when I was 16, I needed volunteer hours. And one of my best friends from school had, she told me about The Rock. And she was like, oh, well, I volunteer at my church. We do this thing called The Rock. You know, I'm sure you could get some volunteer hours there. And you know, I didn't even tell her what it was for. I told her it was for a class. So I started volunteering at The Rock, and I started just going every Saturday, and pretty soon I was going on Thursdays to the Thursday night hike and doing Bible studies, and then they asked me to go to this camp called Kids Across America, and I always knew that, like, everybody's talking about being saved and, you know, being Christian and being saved, but I had no idea what that meant, and I was too ashamed to ask. Like, I felt dumb for not knowing what it meant to be saved, and I wouldn't even ask. And then finally, when I went to camp, I asked my counselor how to ask Christ into my heart, and that's when I gave my life to Christ. And it was the summer right before my senior year of high school. I was 17 years old, and I was like the social butterfly in high school. I talked to everybody. So when I came back to school, everybody already heard that I got saved. They heard that I stopped partying and that I stopped, you know, doing a lot of stuff. They heard that I changed. So my first day back, some of my best friends were like, I heard you got saved. And, like, you're different now? Like, just doubting me. Like, they didn't believe me. They would test me. They would ask me every day to skip class. They would ask me all the time if I wanted to go to a party. They didn't believe me. They had no clue that I had changed. They just kept hearing everything, that I stopped cussing. And then, so pretty soon I was known as the fake girl. I was fake. I changed. I turned my back on everybody. And I was really discouraged, but then I read Matthew 5:11, and it talks about, blessed are those who are persecuted for my name's sake, and because prophets before us went through the same thing, and that was really encouraging to me to know that that people talking about me and telling me I'm fake and calling me a hypocrite, it's not for nothing. That means I'm changing. That means I really am doing something right, because people are going to talk about me regardless. People talked about me before I got saved, and like, I was really discouraged, but I had to keep fighting for Christ. And I'm not going to let what other people think hold me back from what I'm doing, because I know I need to do this right, and I need to live for Christ. And God just changed so much of that around, because when I got out of high school, some of my old friends had got saved themselves and came back to me and came and said, you know, I'm sorry for the way I treated you, and I'm sorry that I didn't see it. And just knowing that I was able to plant all those seeds my senior year, and that I held on strong for Christ was just, like, amazing to think back at where I was, like, a new Christian, not knowing, you know, anything about God right before that, and then God just changed all that in me, and I no longer do all those things, and I can reach out to those now coming into high and not knowing what it means to be saved and not knowing who Jesus is. I can be there to help them and to tell them, like, you know, I was there. I was at a point in my life where I thought this was it. I thought I was going to heaven regardless, and I was wrong. And God is changing so much in my family as well. When I first became a Christian, my family completely did not accept it. They completely told me that I was going to hell because I was not in the Catholic Church, and that was hard for me because I thought I wasn't doing the right thing because my family wasn't supporting me, my friends weren't supporting me, but my church was, and they encouraged me and they helped build me up in the faith, and God is changing so much even with my family now, and I know that if people aren't seeing Christ around me, something needs to change in me so that they're seeing Christ. And that's just one of the biggest blessings, is knowing that that it's God's responsibility to change people the way He changed me. So all I can do is live for Christ myself. So.